The Phillies are going back to the playoffs for the fourth year in a row. Hey there, podcast pals. I'm John Stolnis from The Good Phight. You can follow me on X and Blue Sky at John Stolnis. We have got another Red October coming your way as the Phillies on Sunday clinched a playoff spot, but did not do the big thing that we were hoping they would do, which is clinch the National League East. But of course, a week ago, if you'd have told me there was even a chance this team would clinch the division on Sunday after the series against the Royals, I'd have told you you were crazy. But after an incredible week of baseball and an incredibly awful week of baseball by the Mets here in Philadelphia and then at home against the Rangers, the Phillies' magic number stands at 1 as they get ready for a big series in Los Angeles against the Dodgers. So on this edition of the Roundtable, we will, of course, revel in the fact the Phillies are in the playoffs for a fourth straight year. We know a division title is up next, and we can start thinking about October. We can start thinking about best record in baseball. We can start really thinking about this huge series this week, determining who gets the first round bye in the playoffs in the National League if the Phillies can get that number 2 seed at least. So Liz Roscher, Justin Klugh joining me here to break this all down on this episode of the podcast. Justin, of course, from Baseball Prospctus. He also hosts a couple of podcasts over at our Hittin Season Patreon, The Dirty Inning and Absolutely Hammered. Follow him on X and Blue Sky at Justin Klugh. Not on X, just Blue Sky at Justin Klugh. I always forget that. Justin, how you doing, bud?
Good. You know, I was so enraptured, as many people were, in watching the Pat Murphy read Bob Uecker's letter to the Brewers after they clinched a playoff spot, which was just, I don't know, just a crazy, you could tell everybody like really understood what that meant, and it was like this big, meaningful moment. I love Bob Uecker, and it was just, it was awesome. And then all we got to talk about in the Phillies postgame was how they had shielded everything for a champagne shower and then didn't. And
had to take it all down.
Depressing.
And the t-shirts stayed in the boxes. And I love the writers really like to make hay out of yeah, you thought it was going to be good, didn't you? Well, it wasn't, but now we have to wait. And you're like, aha. Well, it's an unfortunate outcome, but didn't dampen my spirits any for this team at this point in the season and how well they've been playing lately.
Yeah, there's very little, Liz, that can dampen this team's, dampen the way fans feel about this team right now. Of course, Liz Roscher, the editor of SABR's Baseball Research Journal. Follow her on X and Blue Sky at Liz Roscher. I mean, just a phenomenal week of baseball by this Phillies team that is hitting their stride. I said it on I think, the midweek edition of the podcast. Can we just bottle this and have it ready to go in October? Because this is exactly the way you want this team to be playing.
Yeah, I don't want to think too far ahead. I just want them to keep playing like this for now, because I think when it comes to the postseason, I can't. When you look too far ahead, it comes back to bite you. So I'm just super delighted with how they're playing now and hoping they continue it. There's nothing to complain about, really. It's been so enjoyable to watch them this week. The Mets sweep was just a thing of glory. A thing of beauty, just an incredible gem, especially after getting their butts kicked in no uncertain terms by the Mets at Citi Field. So I'm enjoying all this immensely. I've already
forgotten their names as well, honestly.
What was that, Justin?
I've already forgotten their names as well, honestly.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, who are they?
The Mutts, the Ding Dongs. What are we talking about here? No, so the Phillies.
It's been a long day, guys. Sorry.
Yeah, that's totally understandable. It's only the fourth.
They're 12 games back. What's worth remembering about them?
Right.
Oh man, watching that increase over the last few days, over the whole week,
wild.
I'm just like when you play a division rival like that, I know the numbers increase more quickly, but I'm like, holy crap, they were right next to us recently, and now it's just hey guys, oh, you can't hear us? Too bad. We're having a party over here.
Will they make the playoffs is now the question for the Mets.
That's right. No, and we should talk about that in just a few minutes, because I think that's absolutely a topic worthy of conversation. But in terms of that Mets series, it truly was that overplayed anchorman scene. That escalated quickly, and that got out of hand real fast. It really did. It went from 7 to 8 to 9 to 10 to 11, and then Mets go home and they keep losing, and the Phillies get the Royals and they keep winning. It goes up to 12 and to 13, and if they'd have won today, it probably would have stayed at 13, and the Phillies would have won the division. But I mean, I would never have believed it was little over 2 weeks ago. They left New York only up 4 after getting swept in that 3-game series, and now they have a 12-game lead. It was up to 13 after Saturday night's win. Just what a wild turn of events late in this National League East season here. I got to say, I think if we look back on this season, I think the turning point and maybe the most important moment of this series is also probably the biggest highlight of the regular series, regular season. It's the Kyle Schwarber 4-home run game. We remember the Schwarber 4-home run game, but it's easy to forget that comes the night after the Citi Field massacre. He totally he wiped the slate clean, it felt like, with that 4-home run game. They scored 19 runs. They beat, and Aaron Nola gets him down 3-0 in the first inning. So you're just thinking at that point, things are going from bad to worse. The snowball's starting to roll downhill. My goodness, we're in the midst of a collapse of our own. And then the offense goes absolutely crazy on, I don't even remember who the Braves starter was that night. And Kyle Schwarber hits the 4-home run game, and immediately the vibes switch. Like, automatically things change. The Phillies win the first 3 games of that 4-game series. They go to Milwaukee. They take 2 out of 3. They get the Mets coming in. I mean, it's just that 4-home run game by Kyle Schwarber, I think, was the crossroads of the season, and the Phillies took the good path. The Mets took a different path. And that to me is what changed the season. That to me is what really made the big difference in the season, that 4-home run game.
We talked on Friday about the trade deadline kind of being a pivotal moment as well, where the Phillies and Mets kind of like started the season in the same general place, being various people's picks to win the division, with the Braves also in the mix at that point. Then they started off on their paths, but that's I think one of the main places where they kind of forked away from each other, in that, like, the Mets made the choices they did, and the Phillies made the choices they did, and we're at this point, and the Phillies have universally kind of been considered the winners of the trade deadline over more than just the Mets, over everybody in baseball, and that's going to wind up being a huge part of this team's success moving forward. But you're absolutely right that a game like that, I mean, he timed that perfectly. Yeah. We're going to talk about a team that refuses to adhere to anybody's narratives. I know we're going to talk about him, but Aaron Nola is narrativeless. Like, he will not. Imagine if 6 shutout innings today instead of last time. Like, I'm not complaining that he did it before, but wouldn't today have just been a more narratively kind of appropriate? We'll get to it. It's fine. Moving ahead. Kyle Schwarber with 4 home runs the day after that Mets sweep is, that's the kind of timing that you really only find in, like, fiction almost. So that he was able to do that then, I think, is perfectly acceptable day to determine that, like, that's when the Phillies really locked in, and everybody started doing what they had to do with the team being in the shape that it was in.
So it's the 4th time in team history the Phillies have been to the playoffs 4 years in a row. Obviously, 2007 to 2011, they were in the playoffs 5 years in a row, 5 straight division titles. If this Phillies team won't do that. Again, they missed a chance on winning the National League East when they lost 10-3 to the Royals on Sunday. That ended their 6-game winning streak this week. But again, a remarkable week, going from 7 games up in the NL East to 12 games up here by the end of the week. And this, again, too, at the beginning of this week, felt like it could have been perilous, because you lost Trea Turner and you lost Alec Boehm to the injured list ahead of Monday's game against the Mets. And so you're losing a leadoff hitter who's an MVP candidate, who's really one of the driving forces behind this offense. And you lose Alec Boehm too. He's a starter. With Trea Turner going out, you don't want to lose 2 starters on the left side of your infield at the same time. And so when this week got started, the Phillies were playing well, but you wonder, man, that's another series of body blows. You don't know if Trea Turner's going to be out for the season, if he's going to be out for the playoffs, if for some or most of or none of the playoffs. We didn't really know. And the Phillies just said, Liz, held it. We're trucking through people here. We're going to roll through this Mets team. I mean, that 1-0 game on that Monday was a real nip and tuck. And then after that, the Phillies really just kind of decided, we're going to start rolling through some people. You score on us early, doesn't matter. We're going to just pour it on you late. We're going to score on you early and then suffocate you with a pillow in the later innings. They won games in all the different ways that you can win games this week. And that's what you need to be able to show that you can do in October.
Yeah, that 1-0 game was a squeaker. It was 1-0, right? Yeah. And like, that felt good to win. Like, to see them pull that off, and to know that this version of the Phillies, one of many versions that we've seen throughout the season, that this version is capable of doing that. With one of their good guys on the mound, with their trade acquisitions making big differences. It was good to see that. And then they just picked up a bat and literally beat everyone to death. They just beat the Mets team until they were bruised and bloody, and they went back to that. They went on to their next series and they just lost. It's like the Phillies had sucked the spirit out of them.
Remember, they had to go and face Jacob deGrom in the first game after that sweep, too. Talk about narratively appropriate.
And then I thought the video of the SNY broadcast with Keith Hernandez and Ron Darling and those guys was hilarious because they gave up 6 runs in the first inning before deGrom even takes the field. And the Mets DJ in the stadium is like, okay, let's hear some noise as deGrom's getting ready to hit the field. And Keith Hernandez on the broadcast goes, oh no, like. Brother, read the room. This is not the time. Nobody's in the mood for this. It's
his job. Hysterical. Oh, no.
Oh, my gosh. That was awesome. All right. And so the Phillies are now just 2 games behind the Brewers for best record in the National League heading into Monday. And they are 4.5 up on the Dodgers ahead of their big 3-game series in L.A. starting on Monday night. The Phillies are going to be in L.A. for 3 straight games. It'll be one of those things. If the Phillies win on Monday night, they're going to be celebrating the division at 2 a.m. Eastern time. So a lot of us probably, I hope, won't be up to see it. We'll revel in it the following morning. But I was kind of torn as to whether or not I wanted the Mets to lose on Sunday after I knew the Phillies had lost. I want to watch the team celebrate on the field rather than just kind of like in the clubhouse after they saw the final score roll in. In a way, I'm happy that once the Phillies lost, that the Mets won. Because I don't like winning the division that way. It's kind of anticlimactic.
Everybody had gone home.
Yeah.
There's like there would be no celebrating. They'd come in the next day. They'd be like, giving each other 5, doing their special handshakes, and then it would be over. Like that's a whole bunch of champagne they bought for no reason. So like they have to what are they going to do? Just stage a spontaneous celebration because the Mets lost?
They were all
the next day.
No, they were waiting in the clubhouse.
Oh, they were all hanging. Well, that makes sense. Yeah,
they invited the fans to stay, and they put the Mets game on the big screen.
Oh.
So if the Mets lost, they would have come back out, I assume, and
that's probably true.
Frolicked about and everything.
My fault. So, when the game got out of hand, I turned it off. I had other things to do.
I don't think you guys are making incorrect points here, but I'll take a division flag anyway. That's not gonna. That's at the end of the day, that's not gonna super bother me, especially since how we just described. They were still going to do something for the fans, and now, they'll have to do it on the road in the middle of the dark night. But ultimately, it's funny to see the Phillies' reactions to this. Like again, narrativeless, because obviously in a script they would have won today in front of the fans and like culminated this entire hot stretch they've been on of really gratifying baseball with a lock-in of the division title. But since they didn't do that, they kind of just hit you with the same old, like, it was after the Mets sweep. Schwarber said the same thing, where he was just like, yeah, this is kind of just like the thing. We wish the other thing would have happened, but this is what happened, and now we're going to go try to win tomorrow. And that's kind of it. They weren't like, oh, man, our fans deserve better. It's just like, we got it. Like this is you've been watching us make hamburger meat out of the schedule. Don't worry about it. We're gonna go to LA and just do it while you're asleep.
So there's 12 games left in the season. The Phillies looks like they're gonna win the division here within the next day or two. So there certainly is more to play for after that. This series will go a long way to determining the number 2 seed in the National League. Really, if the Phillies if they can avoid getting swept, I think they'll have a pretty great chance of winning that number 2 seed. And you want to see them win that series, of course, for sure. But even just winning one would probably get the job done. So there are some things to play for. One of the things that I'm hearing and seeing in different places, and I don't think any of us buy it, but are they peaking too soon? It's like, No, it's September 14th. It's not, there's no too soon at this time. There's 12 games left. This is when you want to peak. We talked all last offseason. The Mets peaked at the right time, and the Phillies were just kind of stumbling along playing 500 ball, and they weren't ready to flip the switch in the playoffs. I get a totally different sense of this team right now that I hope they maintain. And I think having Harrison Bader here, bringing the energy he's brought in. Frankly, you've mentioned it, guys, a couple times, Garrett Stubbs. I think Garrett Stubbs coming in and getting dropped into the clubhouse here in the last month, I think has energized them quite a bit. I mean, and that's maybe not a small thing, but it feels like there's more energy around the team right now. Winning certainly does that, but I think some of the energy has helped fuel the winning that we've seen over the last couple of weeks here, and especially in the month of September with Harrison Bader here since August. Really, he's been tremendous. It's just this is exactly how you want this team to be playing right now. And I don't want them to let up at all. Like even if over the last 4 or 5 games, rest a guy here and there. But like you got to kind of do it. Liz, you'll probably remember this from the Super Bowl video from Super Bowl 59. Like Saquon Barkley on the sidelines again, but like right here, we're right here. I don't care that we're up like 24-0. We're right here. We haven't won nothing yet. Like keep that energy. Whatever energy you've got right now, don't let up. Don't let up, even to the last game of the season. That doesn't mean anything. You want to get some young guys in, that's fine. But for heaven's sake, don't let up on the energy, because that doesn't necessarily mean you're going to win it all. But it's a big part, I think, of what we're seeing here, why the vibes are so good right now with this team is that they've got this momentum, they've got this energy. And as we've seen, when a team gets hot, and there's no team hotter in baseball right now than the Phillies, those are the teams that go on a run.
I know last year we criticized Rob Thompson especially for sort of letting off the gas in, mid to late September. He had guys resting more often. It's like, we got to get him ready for the playoffs. And it did not go well. It was not the greatest vibe team. The team didn't have the greatest, it didn't feel right after the All-Star break, or actually before the All-Star break, when they got back from London. And it was a tough second half. And this Phillies team has faced adversity much differently. And I don't think Rob Thompson will do the same thing. I think he understands, after seeing what happened last year, that this is a team that just needs to keep going. They need, in order to be consistent, they have to be consistent. That's the same thing I just said twice, with slightly different intonation. But he needs to provide consistency for them and make sure they keep consistent in their routines if they're going to stay consistent on the field, which is what we've been seeing all season. Like some guys have to rest because they're on the injured list, but right. They're going to come back hopefully better than ever and just dying to get into the game. Dying to be part of what the Phillies have been doing without them. And the fact that they've played well over the last week without them has been such a great sign. And I just want to add, of every player, I want to see Harrison Bader shake his hair full of champagne. That glorious blonde hair. I need to see it. I need to see what he will do in the champagne shower with all of the other guys and their weirdness. We must see it.
Imagine if the Phillies weren't peaking right now. Imagine if they were just playing like 500 ball right now. Like,
that's last year.
Would these same people be saying, "Oh, good. It means they're going to peak at the right time."
Right? Of course not.
No. So, come on. That's a nothing argument. And the kind of thing we're talking about is so unattainable that. Not unattainable, but hard to difficult. You don't just get hot. You gotta have something trigger it. We're talking about the moment when the season turned around or whatever for the Phillies. And that's such a strong, elusive thing that even today, when the Mets won, they won on a Pete Alonso home run. And there was all this talk and write-ups about how hey, I know they lost 7 games in a row or whatever, but wasn't it a Pete Alonso home run that turned things around for the Mets in the NL Wild Card Series against the Brewers or something? And you're they're so desperate to get that back that you look back at the last time, isn't this exactly the same as that, right? That feels like you're pulling a lever trying to come on, because it's just really hard to find and get, and the Phillies have it, and it's mid-September. those are the two pieces you want to fit together there. There's
Mm-hmm.
there's no peaking too early. If they don't win the World Series, it's not because they peaked too early.
Right.
Like that's not how baseball works, unfortunately.
Right. And what did you want him to start peaking 3 days before the end of the season? Like mid-September? This is the time.
This is the time. This is when the Mets peaked last year.
Right.
They had Grimace throw out the first pitch or whatever the heck it was. And they, and they started peaking. Like, this is the time.
Remember when I was talking about that podcast where Ryan Howard and Jimmy Rollins were like, we had a hitters meeting and said, like, we really got to start hitting it. And I was like, you can just decide to do that? I mean, that's like
easy.
The same implication here is that, like, well, the Phillies need to pick the day in September that they want to start getting playoff hot. Like, as soon as when they hit that hit that team of destiny button in the locker room, then they can just lock in for the rest of October. No, that's not. So, like, it's really great they're playing the way they've been playing, and it's the perfectly right time. I hope they just, like you said, keep on rolling.
Let's talk about some takeaways from this series against the Royals. The Royals got the 3 righty starters here in this one, and all 3 of these guys are candidates to start a game, in the NLCS or the World Series if they get that far. Probably none of them showed quite enough to say, like, hey, could we get a game 3 in here? You had Walker Buehler on Friday had a very good start, 5 innings. I think he gave up just the 1 earned run, but he needed about 95 pitches in order to do it, but certainly looked fine. You had Taijuan Walker, who did not have a great start, gave up a bunch of runs early, settled down a little bit, but that's kind of been, I feel like Taijuan Walker might be running out of steam a little bit here at the end of the season, just because I can't complain about anything you get from Taijuan Walker at this point forward. He's given you everything he's got. So if the magic's just running out at this point, that is what it is. And then we talked about Aaron Nola just a little bit here. On Sunday, it looked like you had no-hitter type stuff from Aaron Nola. Like, his stuff was that great. His command was right where it was in his last start. The fastball was at its season average. And then he gives up a 2-run home run in the 5th inning. It happens to him. It's all part of the deal, So he blows the 2-0 lead that they gave him in the first with the Schwarber and Real Muto home runs. It's 2-2. And Rob sends him back out for the 6th inning, which, on its face, I don't have a big problem with. It's Aaron Nola. He's your starter, but you got to have somebody in that pen warming, ready to go. And I think if Aaron Nola does get a postseason start, like, that's, frankly, 3 innings is probably the leash for Aaron Nola. Like, and starting in the 4th inning, Rob's got to have a plan. Like, he's got to have guys ready to go. He's got to have, at the first sign of trouble, you got to go get that guy, because it was another blow-up inning in the 6th inning here for Aaron Nola. He just lost his location. All of a sudden, his fastball was in the middle of the plate. Royals hitters were tattooing him all over the place. Sal Perez had a crazy series in a losing effort with 3 home runs in this series and a bunch of doubles. Just unbelievable. And Aaron Nola just got tattooed by those guys. And Rob Thompson left him out for the full 6th inning, which was an interesting decision, and one that I probably would have had somebody ready to go get him before then. It might not have mattered in this game, but Aaron Nola, highest ERA by a Phillies pitcher with a minimum of 80 innings in a season since 1935. His 6.44 is 3rd worst of all time. Only Paul Bird in 2000 with a 6.51, and last year's Taijuan Walker with a 7.10, a higher ERA by a Phillies pitcher with a minimum of 80 innings pitched. Guys, I know we've talked a ton about Aaron Nola. We've seen the good from him. We've seen the bad. Aaron Nola has no brakes on him, Justin. He's Aaron no brakes. He's either looking like he's going to go 27 up, 27 down, or he looks like a guy who's going to give up 10 in an inning. And there's really no in between with Aaron Nola at this point. And I think I'll be curious to see how he looks compared to Walker Buehler here down the stretch, because I think that's what an eventual start in the postseason would end up looking like.
I don't even know if you can really say, like, we got 6 shutout innings from Aaron Nola this season. Those are like his 6 best innings this season, I feel like we would have to say. So I don't even know how you could, like, if you can sit here and say, yeah, sometimes he looks so dominant that, like, he can get everybody out. I don't think he does anymore, because there's a trap door waiting during every start like that. Not the last one, thankfully, but I read a sentence in Paul Casella's write-up on the game where he was talking about Nola's struggles, and a special exclusive treat to people watching the video of this episode, I'm going to respond facially to this sentence after I read it rather than audibly. Despite Nola's struggles this season, it was still surprising in a way to see him stumble in this type of game.
For those of you watching, it's more of like a knowing wink that Justin gave towards the camera there.
So he does back this up, and he's talking about how, well, he was the starter in the clincher in 22, and he was the starter in the clincher in 23, and he was the starter in the clincher for the first division title since 2011. And he actually, in games where they're clinching a postseason berth or a division title or a postseason series, he is apparently 4-1 with a 1.62 ERA. So that's really good, and that's something that backs up that sentence. But I don't think you could also argue, and, even if you're talking just about the regular season, it's still true. These are starts that Aaron Nola has made. He does have a habit of coming up small in a big moment, which is kind of what I'm talking about with like the narrative list thing, where it's like, yeah, just because it would be great, like it would make the most sense if this was like the third act victory for Aaron Nola. He's not going to do that. Like today would have been the perfect day for that. And once again, like you said, John, the way we're describing his struggles are, he was there and then it wasn't. And then I looked at this time and I don't think there were a lot of quotes from him following the loss, but like all you're ever really going to get is like, yeah, I was doing this and I thought it was this and then this didn't work and this didn't work.
There is a quote. My body felt great. It's one of those that's his favorite thing to say. That's baseball, right?
Yeah. That's my favorite thing to say too. It's true.
That's baseball.
It's true. And, I'm not sitting here saying he's going to say anything else. I'm just saying it's really frustrating when a guy is like in the unique position Aaron Nola is in, where he keeps struggling and he's not going anywhere. Like he's not going to lose his job. He might get shifted around somewhere, but he's not going to lose his job. And all you ever hear is like, yeah, I did everything right except for the mistakes. And you're like, yeah, okay, you're definitely starting a postseason game and your contract's up in 2030. Here we are. Like that's kind of the beginning and end of it. And hope those 6 shutout innings weren't a mirage or the end of the ability to throw dominantly or even just passably for 5 or 6 innings that he's going to have this year. So yeah, just as usual, it was an Aaron Nola start. It was good until it wasn't.
Harrison Bader, guys, what a gift, right? I mean, that's kind of the
yes.
That's the going thing with the Phillies center fielder and leadoff hitter extraordinaire. The question, of course, is Trea Turner now demoted from leadoff hitter, given Harrison Bader? No, of course not. He's not going to be. But Harrison Bader filling in for Trea Turner here in the leadoff spot. Holy cow! What an this. I mean, I liked the idea of moving him up near the top of the lineup. I didn't think they would bat him leadoff because I thought they'd put Kyle Schwarber there. But my goodness, what an unbelievable time he's had here in Philadelphia, specifically this week, leading off in place of Trea Turner. Multi-hit games like every game this week, except on Sunday. Just 1 hit on Sunday, so he's a slacker. But since winning the Phillies, a 954 OPS for Harrison Bader. It's a 352 batting average and a 410 on-base percentage, 44 hits for Harrison Bader. Remember, he wasn't even starting every day when he first got here. We were platooning him in different ways. But
we were begging Rob Thompson to do it. My God, we were begging him, and thankfully he caught on pretty quickly. That was a dicey time.
It was a dicey time, and now there's no getting him out of that lineup. And I mentioned earlier some of the energy that he's bringing. Liz, this what a gift thing. I got to get one of these T-shirts that they made. Apparently, Garrett Stubbs made a T-shirt featuring Harrison Bader looking up to the heavens and saying, what a gift. Because I guess that's a tagline that Harrison Bader says. He's just, anytime he sees something good, anytime something good, what a gift. Aaron Nola's start today, those first 4 innings, what a gift. Kyle Schwarber's 50-second home run, the way they cleared left field, what a gift. And that's apparently a Baderism. And so they've made T-shirts out of it, and I got to have one.
I actually say that all the time. Like in my actual life, I use what a gift. It's clearly, we're supposed to be friends. We're supposed to be very good friends. I mean, he is a gift. It's hard to overstate how wonderful his addition has been and how vital he's been to the overall feeling the Phillies have been giving us. We talk about Garrett Stubbs and how disappointing it was sort of that he wasn't around all year. But you drop Harrison Bader in there, and he's got the same sort of energy. He's able to keep the Phillies thinking positively and find like the first 4 innings today. What a gift. Find things to be positive about in every situation. And I'll be curious to see where Thompson puts him. Because I don't know. If he continues to have multi-hit games, like at the start of the Mets series, the first game, he did not hit leadoff.
Right.
And then from the second game forward, all he did was hit leadoff. So I'm curious to see what Thompson will do, because now he's actually got 2 great leadoff hitters he can switch, given his mood, given the situation, however he feels. And that's, again, a gift for Thompson.
Lots of gifts, Justin. Lots of gifts. I can't imagine Trea Turner doesn't get the leadoff spot back. But where do you put Bader in the lineup is a good question, because, Real Muto right now is hitting 4, providing the protection behind Bryce Harper. But, and Alec Boehm comes back. He's usually kind of up. He was, if you hit Bader 6 or 7, I think that's fine. But frankly, he's giving you some of the best at-bats on the team right now. It will be interesting to see kind of where he returns back into the lineup when Trea Turner gets back. And it looks like Trea Turner's ahead of schedule. That was the report from the Phillies today, hitting off a tee, taking grounders. So that looks like really good news. Trea Turner almost certainly will be back before the start of the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't mind, batting him lower, because he went 15 for 29 against the Mets and Royals, which obviously is as obscene as it sounds. With 4 extra base hits, he scored 7 runs. This is all just in the course of 6 games. So you put him lower where a lot of these guys have been successful, and some of those singles that he's hitting are going to start knocking in runs. So you can, manipulate that a little bit to your advantage, because again, you have the added bonus of guys like Brandon Marsh and Max Kepler and Bryce and Stott. Like, they're all hitting very well at this point too. So if everybody's causing trouble, then like the guy who's been more of a machine, which again, if you're looking, I was like, who's been getting on base that he could be knocking in? It was like looking in a specific time frame, and every time frame I looked in was like, well, Harrison Bader is getting on base the most out of all of these people. You're like, oh, okay. But yeah, I think he's still, if he's able to stir up trouble with runners already on base a little more, because he's usually the run that is being scored, not the run that's being knocked in. I mean, give him an opportunity to do that. But I think what Liz is saying is even more important, that now you have the opportunity to based on what numbers guys have or what gut feeling Thompson has, he has the option of putting a different guy in the leadoff spot that could really be to the Phillies' advantage, especially for a team that we complained about not having a leadoff hitter for years and years.
Yeah, if you wanted to split up Harper and Schwarber, you might be able to do that now. You could put Bader in the top spot. You could put Harper second. You could bat Trea Turner third and Schwarber fourth. You could do that. I mean, I like having Schwarber bat second. You get him extra at bats. I think I want him to have a lot of at bats, maybe more than Bader, but you're right. It does give you a little bit of freedom. I think I might even have him up in the number 5 spot. I'd hit him cleanup at this point. You know what I mean? Just to give protection to Bryce Harper, because you don't need a home run hitter to back cleanup anymore. He's not going to stay this hot. That's the other thing for everybody to remember too. Like he's going to cool off, but the fact is he's putting his bat on the ball. He's not striking out. He's hitting line drives everywhere. Chances are you're going to be pretty successful if that's what you're doing, and you've got a lot of speed. Plus there's the defense in center field. So he has been the catalyst. When you guys were talking about the trade deadline, in the last podcast on 1011, it's kind of funny. The Phillies and the Mets filled the exact same needs at the trade deadline. 2 relievers and a center fielder. Like, both went out and got 2 relievers and a center fielder, and the Phillies got the best of all of them. Cedric Mullins versus Harrison Bader. Yep, best one there. Brian Helsley versus Joan Duran. Yep, got the right guy there. And then you have, for the secondary reliever, Gregory Soto and David Robertson. Obviously, Phillies made the right choice there. Just a tremendous addition to the team, Harrison Bader to becoming a superstar in Philadelphia before our eyes, like becoming one of those guys, kind of like a Shane Victorino. I can see that kind of, if he ends up staying here, very Victorino-like, because Victorino was not hailed in any way when he first got the starting job, and he was just in the playoffs so much and so many big moments. He became a star in baseball. Harrison Bader, it took him coming to Philadelphia and having that opportunity in the playoffs to do that. Harrison Bader, this may be his opportunity to do that. A little older than Victorino, but interesting.
Cedric Mullins has been hitting 186 since August 1st.
Yeah,
just to
it's
slip
been
that
rough.
in there.
It's been
I like Cedric Mullins, but oh well.
Yeah, been a rough one. Brandon Marsh heading into Sunday, batting 310, 366, 477 since May 1st. Is this the breakout year? I think we've been waiting for Brandon Marsh. He's certainly, Justin, seems like he's putting it all together.
Hell yeah. Brandon Marsh, man, talk about success stories. 339 batting average since August 1st. I shrunk that sample size a little bit to make the numbers go up. 978 OPS in that span. There are 4 Phillies with over 100 plate appearances since August 1st. That have a 900 plus OPS,
wow,
which I think is crazy enough in and of itself, considering that they're not exactly who you'd expect maybe at the beginning of the season. But yeah, I mean, Brandon Marsh has the highest. Bader, Turner, and Stott are all behind him. And Otto Kemp I'm throwing in there, but he only has 49 plate appearances. But yeah, he has...
We're going to get to Otto.
He has a 902 OPS as well. Marsh is tied for third since August 1st in home runs on the Phillies. It's only 5. But that's good enough for third, and he's tied with Max Kepler. Marsh also leads all the Phillies in doubles since August 1st, and in that span, he has the highest line drive percentage. He is the only one that has a line drive percentage over 30.
Wow.
This was a guy who was looking seriously lost back in May, like completely and utterly lost. Didn't have a hit at one point for like a month, and this is a complete turnaround of that. This is almost lending credit to the theory that, like, yeah, I mean, you know, balance is really the what baseball operates on. That, you know, the guy who is absolutely terrible earlier in the season gets this month where we are looking at what we have to be looking at right now is the best Brandon Marsh we have ever seen.
Yep.
It's sustained over the longest period. That's a huge difference for him. He's usually putting together like 2 to 4 week patches of really, like, getting his head around, getting the bat around the ball and making hard contact and like hitting it in the corner and everything. But then, you know, that kind of goes away, and then you realize, oh, hey, what happened to him? And he's been hitting 250 or 220, and, you know, this has not been that. This has been a whole other level. He is causing trouble nonstop when he comes up. I feel like he's been hitting a lot of like booming line drives that rattle off the bottom of the fence. And like, I've seen a couple of outfielders that like just did not know how to play the ball off the fence. So like he's creating chaos in that way. And yeah, where he hits in the lineup, there's typically people already on base. So it's doing a lot of damage at the right time. It's awesome. It's a special satisfaction when it's like a player who he's my favorite player of this group of guys. And watching him play at this level has been really satisfying and honestly kind of surprising for it being for it going on as long as it has.
Yeah. Totally pleasantly surprised, Liz.
I'm not going to attribute everything to Harrison Bader, but I feel like his style of play sort of reminded the Phillies about how helpful it is to get the bat on the ball and to hit the ball really hard. And I think you could see that in Brandon Marsh because he's been doing that in a major way with the line drive percentage and all of the exciting runs he's hitting where the outfielders like trip over their own feet trying to find where the ball is after it goes underneath that little lip. So I don't think like he's responsible for everything or even for, you know, directly for Brandon Marsh, but his style of play definitely, you know, put a bug in the Phillies' ear about how they're supposed to approach at bats and what they need to do to get the result they want. Because I think there's been a lot more of that.
There has been, and especially with Brandon Marsh, the swing and miss has been far fewer, but getting his bat on the ball a whole lot more as of late. And as a team, the team's at-bats have been terrific. We have not seen this team doing a lot of chasing. We've seen them really being selective at the plate, which has been even better than chasing, you know, just being selective at the plate, not getting themselves out, not getting themselves into pitchers' counts, allowing balls to be balls. It's a remarkable concept when as a team, you're all doing that, you make life miserable for an opposing staff, and you can just make innings go on and on and on. And they have to come over the plate. They can't walk everybody. Like, they're going to have to come over the plate, and the Phillies have been making them do that really up and down the lineup. Another one of those guys that's done that, Otto Kemp. What a week for Otto Kemp, coming up from the minors to replace Alec Bohm, playing as well as Alec Bohm ever has at third base and at the plate since being recalled from AAA. 21 at-bats coming into Sunday, 429 batting average for Otto Kemp, a 458 on base, and an 857 slugging percentage. And Liz, I got to tell you, the home run that he hit over Monty's angle, that's a man's home run.
Yeah. That's a big play.
I didn't think old Otto could hit one that far out. He tanked that ball out of here.
Seeing him display some big boy strength is a lot of fun. Because you think that only Kyle Schwarber can hit home runs like that. Because he's a big guy, he's beefy, and then Otto Kemp isn't. He's a bigger guy, but he doesn't have like the same thickness that Kyle Schwarber has, like the muscle depth. And to see him put that one where he did was wild. I've watched that home run quite a few times, and I'm just like, wow, the ball is going far, and it goes far every single time I watch it.
Justin, 7 RBIs, 2 home runs, 3 doubles this week for him, and he's just getting hits in big spots too. I'm really, again, not expecting that from Otto Kemp this week, but he has come up and made an immediate impact filling in for Alec Bohm.
When a team's playing like the Phillies are playing, it's because things like people like Otto Kemp are coming through in big spots. Of the 9 hits he's got, 5 are for extra bases. Ooh. Like, I'm not sure. I don't want this to like sound like a tearing him down, but I'm not sure if he knows how he's doing what he's doing. I'll tell you what's wild about Otto Kemp. What I love about him is that if you watched his like demeanor and his approach, you'd think he'd been with the team the entire time. Perhaps the last few years. He seems to have like clipped in immediately, taken to this role. Like one of the hardest things they tell you to do is like just drop you in to especially like an intense playoff atmosphere where the Phillies have plenty more to play for and win for, and just be like, all right, you have a starting job now. Last week you were back in the minors, crashing into Justin Crawford. There were teeth everywhere. It was a brutal scene, and everyone was very concerned about the outcome of that situation. And now, guess what? You have to fill in for Alec Bohm because he's hurt too. And then you get this, which is just it's what's working for. You mentioned Shane Victorino. One of the big frames around his retirement, like as people looked back on his career, was when the Phillies won the World Series, that you need a Shane Victorino. You need guys like that who aren't necessarily like are only at the beginning of their stardom, to say the least, but like who you picked off the Rule 5 scrap heap and just said like, all right, well, let's give this guy a chance. And then he proved it. And he comes through in all these spots, and you're just like, I think we have a guy here.
Yeah.
I don't know. Otto Kemp, I think you can say that about him. Like, his first stint wasn't totally unsuccessful. He's never going to be the biggest bat in your lineup, but he filled in amicably and came through in a couple of spots. What else can you ask a guy who's coming up from AAA like that out of necessity? And then he comes up like this, and he's playing even better this week than we have ever seen him play. Yeah. And he looks totally comfortable as a major leaguer. I mean, that's why I always talk about the Cal Stevenson game last year. That's why it's so fun to talk about guys like Buddy Kennedy, these guys who like no one factored into playing major roles in the Phillies season, winding up coming up in big spots and coming through. I mean, that's how you know things are really working for a team, and that's how you win in October.
And I wonder if Otto Kemp is going to be able to find a way on the postseason roster. It's a numbers game, obviously. You're going to have Edmundo Sosa on that roster with your 4 main infielders. It's going to kind of, I guess, maybe come down to Weston Wilson or him on a postseason roster. At this point, I guess it's going to kind of like if you're going up against a left-handed starter in a postseason game, are you going to start Weston Wilson or are you going to start Brandon Marsh? And if you're going to start Brandon Marsh in those games, then Weston Wilson doesn't really need to be on the postseason roster, and you probably want to have somebody like Otto Kemp in there who can play some infield. Doesn't really play outfield all that much, but can do some. But I think I'd rather have his bat on the roster than Weston Wilson's bat in the postseason.
Who expected this to be a tough choice because they were both kind of good?
Right.
As opposed to what you would assume. Like, if you told me 2 months ago this would be the decision, I'd be like, God. I mean, it's flip a coin. Why don't you? But now, like, they both bring significant things to the table. Like, it's an actual tough decision to make, and that's a tribute to both of them for just playing well and for showing up.
Doing their jobs.
Yeah, doing their jobs. Doing their jobs.
I love playing the "If You Told Me" game with this team.
Yes, I love that game.
It's always a fun game.
Going around, like, you know, the most obvious one being like, tell me in April that the Phillies, you know, just watched Aaron Nola give up 6 runs in a blow up and are without Zach Wheeler, Trey Turner, and Alec Boehm. And then explain that they're also 12 games up on the Mets, just swept them over a 4-game series, and are potentially going to be the top seed in the National League playoff picture. I mean, what is that?
That's just
difficult to believe. Yeah.
Talk about narratives? No, narratively destroyed. There, that is a real mess. That would not pass a writing for media class at Temple.
I think this is to their advantage, the fact that they're narrativeless, because they keep, you know, they don't take the straight path ever, and it's not because they don't want to, because I'm sure they'd rather, but it shows that they're dedicated to getting the job done no matter what. And they might take some weird turns to get there, but they'll get there. And I like that we can't predict how they'll do it. But I think a lot of us are starting to have faith that they will. They set their minds to it, and they're going to get something done.
Yeah, it definitely is starting to feel like that to me. They're winning these games, that they're winning these big games. They're winning these big series. They're winning these big contests. And again, in Los Angeles this week, it'll be another test for them. But they've passed some really big tests here over the last few weeks, some playoff type atmosphere type tests, and really have come through it with flying colors, getting contributions from everybody. And that's the most encouraging thing. Like, they're not beating up on the Rockies and Pirates and White Sox. They've played some really good teams in the hunt for the playoffs, fighting for their lives. And the Phillies have actually run through a lot of these teams with some general ease for the most part. So very, very, very encouraging. Kyle Schwarber hit 2 home runs in this series. He's now up to 52 on the season. He's got 12 games to try and get to 58 to tie Ryan Howard. So that would be 6 in 12 games. It's certainly a possibility. 7 to surpass Ryan Howard. Bryce Harper had a big game on Saturday. First one, you know, these Bryce Harper games are a little bit few and far between, but a big game on Saturday, 3rd inning, 2-run home run, put him up 3-1, and had another big hit in that game as well. Very interesting article by Ken Rosenthal in The Athletic, who we also have to talk about more in just a second. I don't know if you saw the water thing with Ken Rosenthal. But an article about Bryce Harper, and essentially Harper is okay with not being the main guy. It's not surprising. Harper wants to win a World Series more than anything. But I think it was interesting. You know, he was talking, Rosenthal was talking to Harper about, you know, it's kind of Kyle Schwarber's team. And, you know, when we think of the Phillies, we think of the starting rotation right now. We think of Schwarber. You know, right now, as a Phillies fan, you're kind of thinking about Harrison Bader. You're kind of thinking about some of the Trey Turner having a bigger year than Bryce Harper is right now. And Bryce Harper's numbers are still quite good. He might hit 30 home runs this year. Might be the quietest 30 home run season you'll ever hear from Bryce Harper. But Justin, I think it's true that he's kind of just he's not a role player. He's in a very important part of this team, but it doesn't feel like it's his team going into this October. Maybe that's for his benefit. Maybe that's for the good, that he's kind of laying low for October, maybe?
Yeah, lurking is I believe
I like that.
The technical term. But I think we've seen 2 great examples, not to keep going back to it, but at the trade deadline when they picked up Bader and they picked up Duran. And I think you saw that the positive impact that those guys had on the Phillies was more than just the addition of them. It really helped kind of stabilize or help the Phillies figure out what to do with both of those, with both the bullpen and the outfield, 2 situations that were kind of in flux at that point. And with those guys coming through in the way they did, they were really able to say, like, okay, so it looks like we can play with platoons in the corner outfield positions and try to make a more effective lineup that way. And I think we're a little more aware of whose job is whose in the bullpen, and we have an outline for that as well. And it really seems to be to everyone's benefit because everyone is playing better since that point. So Bryce Harper is never going to say, like, no, this should be about me. Or like, no, I kind of wished I thought I was going to have a bigger role here. I mean, he knows ultimately he missed a chunk of time this season. So like the MVP candidate thing was never going to last. That wasn't going to, really be a factor this year. And he can see just as well as we can that at this point in this situation, maybe not forever, but like right now, he is better off in this kind of like more supporting role that he can see that everything is kind of like firing on all cylinders for this offense. He can see that there's a lot of effective contributors right now, and he doesn't need to be like dragging this team into the playoffs by his teeth the way it feels like some years he's needed to and then also has. Taking the weight off his shoulders in the way that like maybe that pressure that was released from guys in the bullpen or other guys in the outfield who are pressing, who are trying to do something, do a job that really they shouldn't have in the first place, or are just being left in a game in an uncomfortable time. Taking that pressure off is doing wonders for them, and it's only going to do wonders for a guy like Harper too, who has been in the game long enough and is mature enough to just be like, yeah, I mean, that's what's working right now. I'm fine doing that. And, maybe he goes off and is like the MVP of the NLDS or something. It's all very, very possible.
Harper wants a World Series ring. And I think he's far enough into his career and a mature enough man to not care how he gets it, because he'll have contributed no matter what. Every team starts new at the beginning of the season, but every team is also somewhat a product of the team that came before it. And he's contributed positively to all those teams and to this team. And he knows that it doesn't matter if he's the star or if someone else is. He'll still have a ring at the end of it if they win the World Series, and he would have helped. And I think he's one of those guys that will not, I don't think he'll feel complete as a career player without a World Series ring. He wants one bad. And we've seen him talk about it, and you can tell there's a hole in his heart somewhere. Yeah, where there is like a ring box open, waiting for it. And I think he wants it no matter what. And I think it helps him that he's not the only guy getting things done, and he doesn't have to be the only guy getting things done.
Yeah, I think the larger news is he looks healthy. He's playing pretty well, and he has a say on his legacy on this team. Like if this is not out of his control. He has a say on how many heroic moments he can author here for the rest of the season and the last couple weeks in September and then into October. But big game on Saturday. Certainly good to see from him. Hit the early home run and with a couple of big hits in the series against the Royals altogether. One other thing I wanted to ask you guys about. Everybody's worried, or I keep seeing like people worried about, well, how can you have 3 lefty postseason starters, in a row? How can you have a lefty start games 1, 2, and 3 in a row? Like you need a righty to break them up. Can I just ask why? Am I missing something about why it's a bad idea? I don't think we would hear this if it was 3 right-handed starters in a row. I don't get the hand wringing about like your 3 best starters who are guys who can absolutely shut down any lineup, and they've really been the 3 best starters during the streak. They've been going back to back to back and mowing teams down. It hasn't seemed to matter all that much. I know a playoff series is different, but do either of you guys have any idea, any sense why it feels like people want to pigeonhole or shoehorn a right-hander in the middle of those 3 left-handed starters? They're your 3 best, 1, 2, and 3. Let's go.
Are you just forcing the other team to adjust, go to their righty lineup instead of the lefty? But then, like, what are you gaining there? Because they have clearly set that lineup up to be more effective against the other guys. So, like, hey, you're asking the wrong person.
Okay.
And issues like this where they're talking about, like, this guy's got to go here and this guy's got to go here. I don't know, man. If everybody's playing well, I'm not sure it really like matters. I would rather see any of those lefties pitch than Aaron Nola.
Yeah.
As I've said, I'd rather see Taijuan Walker start in the playoffs than Aaron Nola.
I don't think you actually mean that in your heart, but
I don't know, man.
I'll tell you what.
I don't know
I
if
am
I can
interested. I am suddenly Walker Buehler is must-see TV for me over these last couple of weeks. I got to see Walker Buehler. Liz, any thoughts?
I think it's just conventional wisdom, because there are always a lot more righties than lefties, right? And I think it's just conventional wisdom, and I think it's a little rare for there to be 3 righties in a row. And I think people are maybe scared of it, or again, like it doesn't come up often. So like, you got to get a righty in there. Where are your righty starters? Don't you have any? You're supposed to have some, guys. And I don't think in the end it matters. You put your 3 best guys out there, and you put them out there to play, and that's it. I think it's just, again, it's just old baseball stuff that people say that has now lost real meaning because we're in the year 2025 and things are not the same as they were in 1995. And
Sanchez, Suarez, and Luzardo are very effective against right-handers. Like they don't get crushed against right-handers. So I don't see that as being a real big deal. All right, last thing. Did you guys see the Ken Rosenthal?
Yeah.
I don't know Ken Rosenthal from Adam, but so for those of you who haven't seen it, for those of you who haven't been online, so after the Brewers clinched a playoff spot, there was on a walk-off hit in extra innings. The game was broadcast on Fox, and Ken Rosenthal is interviewing one of the Brewers players. And somebody comes out to throw water on the Brewers players, like we've seen the daycare do, but it was like a huge jug of water. And Ken Rosenthal in his suit starts backing away. And remember, Ken Rosenthal is about 5'2", so this plays a part of that. He starts backpedaling so that he doesn't get wet and plows over his cameraman. I think it was his cameraman. I think it was the Fox camera. But he plows over some cameraman. I think it was his. And gives this guy a look like, what were you doing in my way, you piece of crap? And doesn't help him up. Looks at him with just the disgust and disdain of something that you just got on your shoe. And meanwhile, this camera guy's like on the ground, getting knocked over by Ken Rosenthal. Somebody else has to come and help him up. And Rosenthal's like shaking his head. I'm like, how could you be in my way? Like it was... Again, I don't know Ken Rosenthal at all. I've never disliked him in any way. I mean, I've always, found him to be fine on the air or whatever. But do you guys have any thoughts, Liz? Do you have any thoughts on this?
I'll say, as a 5'1" woman, that I mean, my first thought was he may have thought someone was trying to someone was trying to run him over and get him out of the way. And he didn't realize it was his cameraman. And he was just sort of in vigilance mode and just sort of reacted to the guy. But once you realize it doesn't even have to be your cameraman, dude. Just once you realize it's another human person, you can stop and help him up. The broadcast will wait. The broadcast that that he was in the middle of doing, the interview, will wait because he's covered in water right now. And it's going to want to shake off and needs a towel. And furthermore, you're the guy conducting the interview and putting a camera on you as you help up the guy you accidentally pushed over is going to make you look good. I'm eager to see what statement Ken Rosenthal releases about this tomorrow.
I hope he
because
does.
He has to. At this point, I mean, I have not been in sports media actively for a number of months now, but I know for a fact if everyone's beaten up on you for something that there's a video clip going around virally, absolutely you have to release a statement being like, I didn't realize it. This is what I thought. I'm very sorry. I should have helped him up, etc.
Yeah, maybe he went out and bought that guy a steak dinner afterwards or something. No idea. But
sure,
if you're just looking at the footage, the 12 seconds of repeating footage that was circulated, it looks like Ken Rosenthal is really pompous, entitled debutante, let's say. Which, a lot of these guys at the top, the insiders of any sport, especially baseball, that's typically what they are. They're like, oh, I want to get to wear my suit, and my phone makes me the story, too. And, that's the system they operate in, where they are the star of their network's baseball
Here's the
coverage.
bow tie I'm going to be wearing
true.
tonight's national broadcast for this, blah, blah, blah. Yeah.
I'm a brand myself. What someone like him is not going to realize is that if he disappeared tomorrow, Fox would replace him with anybody that can, do that job, and his name would be forgotten forever. But in this case, there just seems to be a ton of self-importance. If that is his own cameraman, then he's probably disgusted that he didn't get the shot of the cooler getting dumped on the guy, and that's what he's shaking his head at. He looks at him afterwards, just kind of throws his hand up, and initially I thought that was him being like, whatever, man. Like, yeah, hey, this is your fault. Like, you were in the way. But also, I'll just say this: it looks bad for Ken. He looks very, all the stuff I said. But how many times have we watched one of these like local Phillies reporters, media people interviewing someone post game, and they get destroyed in this cooler splashdown? Ken is trying so hard to not get a little bit wet from this cooler. It's pathetic. It's so fancy pants schmancy. Like,
it's probably not a cheap suit. I'm sure he didn't get it at Kohl's. You know what I'm saying?
Too bad, man. That's the part. It's a part of the job is you might get a little water on you. I'm so sorry, but
God
end of the
forbid
day,
something humanize you.
Yeah, and that's the other thing. This is why he kind of has to address it with that look on his face and his attitude. This is a mask off situation where it's like this guy who pops up like, "Hi, I'm the chipper little baseball leprechaun, and I'm here to tell you about blah, blah, blah." That's not what this is a different guy, and you're just like, I wonder who the real Ken Rosenthal is. The guy who pops up on baseball broadcasts, or the guy who looked at a cameraman like he had just stepped in gum.
Yeah, I agree with you. It was definitely a mask off type moment. Kind of like an Ellen DeGeneres type thing, where you're like, kind of.
Oh yeah, that's exactly what this reminds me of.
Yeah, a little bit. All right, let's wrap up with some final thoughts ahead of this 3-game series against the Dodgers. I do want to we'll go over the pitching matchups real quick. You got Ranger Suarez going up against Emmett. Don't call me Ed Sheehan. He has made 12 starts this year for the Dodgers, has a pretty good ERA, 3.32 ERA in 59 2/3 innings, 69 strikeouts. So he's got a 1.09 WHIP. So right-hander is off to a good start for the Dodgers as they've been having real trouble with their starting rotation. Christopher Sanchez goes up against Shohei Ohtani on Tuesday night. We'll see how many innings they get out of Shohei in this one. And then Jesus Luzardo against Blake Snell on Wednesday evening. All those games starting at the crack of 10:10 Eastern time in the evening. So no early starts for anyone. Make sure you got your coffee if you're planning on staying up late. All right, Liz, final thoughts.
As we were mentioning guys who've been doing well this season and since August 1st specifically, I wanted to point out that our friend Bryce Stott, after hitting 233, 305, 340 through July 30th, since August 1st has been hitting 330, 394, 527. With 4 home runs, 7 stolen bases, and 1 caught stealing, which happened today. He's got 16 strikeouts and 13 walks. This is the Bryce Stott that we remember, who we have not seen for almost 2 years now.
Yeah.
He's here, he's back, and you don't have to fear when he comes up in the lineup anymore. It's good to see him. I'm glad he's returned to us.
Yeah, this has been better than the 2023 version, which we were so excited about. So this has been really important development for the lineup too. I mean, just because he does come up in big situations and has been giving them really good at bats, hitting the ball hard in those types of situations, and a lot of times hitting home runs and getting extra base hits. Justin, final thoughts.
Statistically oriented as well, I wanted to say that he went on the injured list 5 days ago. Trey Turner still has the most hits on the Phillies in the second half, and to a even greater extent, Zach Wheeler had the National League strikeout lead 18 days after he was done for the season, which obviously is different because, it's always going to be starting pitchers and they don't play every day, but it was still wild to look that up and see that. He has since been dethroned. There are 4 guys with more strikeouts than Zach Wheeler now, but one of them is Jesus Luzardo. And it's not going to surprise anybody to learn this because of how well the Phillies have been, at starting pitching all year long. But yeah, even with Zach Wheeler done for the season, 3 Phillies starting pitchers still occupy the 4th, 5th, and 6th positions in the NL strikeout ranks. So
wow,
this is a pretty good team.
This is a pretty good team. And we need to talk about Joan Duran on this episode of the podcast and how amazing he looked this week. Throwing the knuckle curve more now. I haven't seen hitters that uncomfortable, really ever, against a close. I mean, no one wants any part of him right now. So it's what a tremendous weapon. So The vibes right now here for the 2025 Phillies are absolutely pristine. The Phillies are going back to the playoffs. Red October will return for a 4th straight year. And by the time you hear us again, by my midweek episode of the podcast, certainly the Phillies will have won the division, more than likely, the magic number down to 1. So I'll have a solo podcast for you midweek here, recapping the NL East crown. And, we'll do another, Justin Liz will do a podcast at the end of the week. And hopefully we'll be talking about a very good and very fun Dodgers series that none of us stayed up to watch this week. I'm just kidding. We'll watch the games. Don't worry about it. All right, everybody, listen.
No.
That's going to do it for this edition of Hittin' Season. Folks, make sure to tell your friends and family members about this podcast. We are found on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever it is you get your podcasts. And you can watch the roundtable editions of the podcast on YouTube on the WHYY YouTube page. So just subscribe to the WHYY YouTube page. Go to YouTube, find WHYY, hit subscribe, and you'll get the podcast every time it's up the following morning after we record the podcast in the evening. So this one will be up on Monday morning. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in. We'll talk to you next time right here on Hittin' Season.